Who we got? Who we got that's new on the call today?
If anybody's new and they want to raise their hand, introduce themselves to this amazing crowd, feel free to do so. Anybody new? No?
If not, hey Lorraine, can you jump in and talk a little bit about the email you sent me on what you guys are doing with the ILO and
Yes, maybe I'll have my colleague Maria talk about it. You guys know me, but you don't know my colleague Maria. So
all right,
Maria,
Maria.
I'm not sure who wants to jump in. You get to meet someone else.
Hi,
All right.
can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. Okay, can you see me also? That's a good. Yes. Very happy to be here and chatting with you all. Very nice starting with a one-on-one. So yes, Sulum, who is also in the call, we are together with Lorraine working on trying to find out what the picture from the demand side of platforms, like who are the platforms, what, how do they work, how do they see the workers. Obviously, the ILO is very much into, the employment part of things. So in that context, we have started a survey, Lorraine has with her colleague Chuting, and that we are looking for platforms to fill in, because we need as much information as possible to have a good picture of the situation. So that's one of the reasons we're here. And also, and maybe I can invite my colleague Sulum to tell us a little bit more on what else we would like to, how we would like to use this space. Sulum, can I ask you to jump in?
Sure. Thank you, Maria. And indeed, we really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. As Maria said, and perhaps just to situate yourselves on the International Labour Organization, both of us are working in the Employment Policy Department. This department is covering all matters that are trying to improve the functioning of the labor market and the matching between supply and demand from many different perspectives, training needs, but also compliance needs, and the conducive environment for businesses, and also the working conditions too. So part of our work is covering now all the digital agenda, the decent work in the digital economy, especially what is concerned to online labor platforms. And if you have explored a little bit what the ILO has been doing or the research that has been published, most of it is looking at the supply side. So a lot has been collected on the voices of workers, but we think that to indeed improve the potential, to unlock the potential of the digital economy, we need to also listen to the voices of platform operators and other actors and employers. And this is when we came together with the idea of running this survey to collect the voices, the opinions, the challenges that you are facing, but also the opportunities that are being identified for this industry to grow. It's growing very fast, or what is online gig work, especially in the countries that the ILO is serving the most, the middle income countries. And well, this is specifically the interest we have. And besides that, this is a first step. We would like to also discuss or have the opportunity to explore more opportunities for exchanging or collaborating together. Perhaps one additional piece of information is that the ILO celebrates every year in June the International Labor Conference, and we are preparing to discuss in the agenda of 2025 decent work in the platform economy. Something has happened already on that. We have last year an experts meeting on decent work in the platform economy, and also normative gap analysis also has been conducted and presented in February this year. So the office is preparing and collecting evidence, also understanding the rapid changes and the effects in the labor market that this transformation is having. And so it's in this framework and with this spirit that we wanted to get to know you and indeed explore future collaboration and present also this project on the survey to you. So I stop there, and perhaps you may have some questions or comments, so we will be very glad to address them.
Yeah. Hey, Glenn, I see your hand, but I just want to jump in 1 second, then I'll hand it over to you. Yeah, thank you so much, Zulum and Maria. This is really exciting, and I think it's, a good timing. There's a lot of momentum, as you said. Revenue, continues to rise in the platform economy and what we call the open talent economy. So we're happy to share with you what we know. I'm right in the midst of my work at Harvard. We just finished a new case study on UST and the adoption of open talent that's not quite out yet, but it will be. And then we're about ready to embark on another one in the next few weeks. Likewise, I would look at some of the work, and Balaji's on the call, and he was the star of a really great case study on Deloitte and the adoption of open talent that Mike Tushman and I did. It was a 5-part piece of research case study. So there's lots of good materials there, and we're happy to point you to that material. Likewise, I'll make sure that when the book's out in a couple of weeks that I get you guys that, because I think what we tried to do at Harvard is create a framework to create common language and common process. Because my vision, or at least understanding, is that economies and industries don't really scale until everybody can talk the same language and everybody kind of has a similar process. And that's our hope, is to think about open talent as a digital transformation of total talent, being including external talent clouds, internal talent marketplaces, and kind of the open innovation capabilities. So we'll make sure we get that, and really, really appreciate you guys being on the call and collaborating. So thanks so much. I'm going to turn it over to Glenn. Glenn, you had your hand up, and I think you have some stuff that you wanted to chat about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is really interesting as well, and I shall send across my Lorraine's got my email, but we've been doing sort of various studies in this space, and also anything you need, because with freelance movement in the European context, we bring together over 50 platforms as well, all the way through from kind of ride hailing and food delivery, all the way through to musicians, artists, models, and in the full range of freelance talent. So yeah, be very happy to be involved. And also, if you give us the details on what the date is for the event as well, that would be fantastic to hear that and understand where it's taking place.
That's great. I just wanted to jump, over to John Healy, because John, you were part of facilitating this. I know, Lorraine, I think you reached out separately earlier, but then John kind of got me kind of refocused on it. So anything you can add here, John, because you've got such a wealth of experience in traditional staffing, and certainly, one of the OGs in the open talent space. So just want you to have the ability to lean in.
Just add in, Zulum. One, thank you for being here. I have served on the board of the World Employment Confederation for an extended period. So we had representation at the meeting that was there. I just I put it in the chat, and I just encourage tapping into this community for access to some of the platforms and the people who lead this marketplace, so that when the next convening of that group comes together, we have more voices who are out of the platform sector, and so that those perspectives get added into the dialogue a little bit more, whether they're in the direct voices or the indirect voices that are in the background as you go through those 2-day conferences. So thank you for being here. Really good to see.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Well, let's turn it over. Glenn, I think maybe you had something else to add. And Brandon said you wanted to talk about something else. So jump in.
Yeah, just to bring the group up to speed. Last weekend we were in Brussels. We had sort of 3 events. The first was our European Freelance and Future of Work Innovation Summit, which was really good. We had a full range of platforms there discussing the Platform Worker Rights Directive, which is a big piece of legislation at the moment. Of course, the AI Act as well, and how this is going to impact sort of freelancing and open talent. From an algorithm perspective, and also from an individual perspective here, and that's both these things are really in the sort of the final stages. See if we can get something over the line within this current Parliament, and then we also did a Future of Work and the facilitation for SMEs event with politicians, and it was really sort of a full range of politicians across the political spectrum. And then we did an evening event. We had 400 people. We did it together with MasterCard on sort of the payment futures, but also the open talent models as well. Got the European Parliament, European Commission, and some member states present at that, as well as the voice of freelancers. We had a sort of a range of freelancers actually speaking, explaining their stories, their journeys, and really trying to sort of reset the narrative a little bit about what's actually happening, and also the breadth and scale of what's happening at the moment. So a really, really effective set of events. I'll put in the chat sort of a link to some of the photos and some of the background to what we're doing as well. But really, really successful, and yeah, look forward to the follow-up on the back of this as well.
Thanks, Glenn. Super appreciate all the awesome work you're doing in the UK, or not in the UK, but in Europe, in the EU. This has been really inspiring to watch. And I don't know how you have the energy to do everything you do. So keep on doing it, make us like every time.
I tell you what,
John, turn on LinkedIn, I'm like, shit.
You never work a day in your life.
What's that? What's that?
I say that when you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. I think that's the way it is. You got to be passionate about these things, and I just love it, And also, when you get the people who come across and share their stories in terms of why they're doing it, and just having the flexibility and the realization they can actually sort of make money in sort of new ways. It just makes you realize you're on the right track and you're doing the right thing as well. So yeah, it's fantastic. Just love it.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'm, not only jealous of your ability to create so much content, but you're always wearing that snappy suit and well shaved. I'm kind of disappointed myself that I can't keep up. You're like definitely off the front, way off the front. So I love it. Hey, I'm going to shift a little bit here because I had this I did a couple of really great podcasts. I guess, when was that, Brandon? Yesterday?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I did one with Mike Contreras, who runs Ensemble, and Mike, has been kind of one of the OGs. I don't know, is Contreras here today?
He's not.
No, yeah. So he runs a company called Ensemble, and I would really suggest you guys tap in to listen to that when it goes live, because he's really been one of the OGs in the public space, back from the Sunspot Challenge that he helped run several years ago, for the Department of Energy, to kind of helping, the federal government change the way they think about open innovation. And certainly that's where it started, very contest based. But I think some of the momentum he's getting is around outcomes based and task based. So now going from open innovation to open talent. NASA, I think Steve talked about it last time or a couple of calls ago about them just venturing into, using an external talent cloud and hiring freelancers for NASA. And so that seems like there's a big movement, a shift there. And I think it's going to be great for all of us. And so lots of momentum. So make sure you tap into that. And then the second one, I talked to the CEO of Talent Alpha, Agnieszka, really had a great conversation and really enjoyed their Future of Work Report 2024. And I think it's worth looking at. It's, the world of work and AI. So I don't know, Brandon, if you can put that in the chat, yep. But that'd be super awesome. So I think, with that, let's see, any other updates from me? Oh yeah. So next Tuesday, the article on external talent clouds, and I can actually give you guys, I think, let's see here if I can find it. No. Yeah, here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see here. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. So let me just get to the.
Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks, man. I just wanted to share. So this hits to, 13 million people on Tuesday to the Harvard Business Review world. So pretty stoked about it. It's taking the chapter on external talent clouds, and so it goes digital next Tuesday to the HBR massive list, and then in the magazine printed on probably mid-month, but it'll be out for the January, February issue. And so they did a fantastic job. It's, I don't know, 13 pages or so, really diving into the details on how you build an external talent cloud. And that's really where I've been focused, is like, what are the actual how do you get this done? I think it's been super important for me. And then likewise, the book comes out January 16th. So I've been just hair on fire with, 3 or 4 podcasts a week, and then lots of writing assignments. One kind of quick observation. I used to love, as a journalist, because I'm a journalist by background, I used to love the days when you'd have a conversation with journalists. And now essentially the act of journalism is somebody from a publication sending across a list of questions that you got to write up yourself. And oh my God, it's just killing me. Right. So I guess, the power of generative AI. Speaking of that, I just kind of as a fun side note, I built Open Talent GPT for myself, and I uploaded all the book and all the stuff I've been writing. So it's actually super fascinating to be able to query the AI and say, give me a summary of open innovation capabilities, or, what are the 5 steps to take? And it pulls stuff from, several of my sources. And so really having fun experimenting that, trying to accelerate the share of knowledge and kind of that curation layer of things. I think a lot more to come, and I'll report back on that. But I really wanted to launch in today and spend some time, because, it's end of the year, and it's been a fantastic year. I think both on, the momentum in the market, but, also it's a really tough year. I think from startup standpoint for many of us, there was a big article in the New York Times this morning about how many companies are going out of business and how many people have been overinvested. I think there's no doubt that in our market, that in the last few years, a lot of the big platforms have taken on a lot of investment, and it's going to be really fascinating to see who, ends up having the staying power to get beyond the kind of exponential kind of valuations that were happening a year ago or so. So lots to talk about here. Brandon, I don't know if you want to share, like what Brandon did a great job this morning, kind of going back to last year's call, and you were kind of thinking about like, what were people saying, on predictions of 2023. Maybe we can start there. And then also let's share the link from the Harvard article earlier this year that was kind of predicting what was going to happen on 23. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to see where the year started and kind of what we're all thinking. Let's just share what we're all thinking for kind of going into next year.
Sure. Yeah. So we had this call this time last year, and there were just some key takeaways. One that stuck out was John. Actually, you had mentioned being at the Wharton School around that a month or so, maybe in November last year, and saying that you felt that many enterprises were still threatened by the use of open talent. And I was just curious if anyone, this could just be an open forum question, is, did anyone feel that there was more or less openness to adopting open talent strategies in 2023?
I mean, I'll just jump in to start with, because I've been having so many conversations around it. And I've had this kind of consistent theme in the last month saying, from a lot of, enterprises saying, we get it, we need to adopt these new talent models that are digitally based, that, open up our halls to all kinds of talent. Now, how do we do it? What do we do? How do we get it done in a compliant, secure way? So that's, I don't know, anybody else have any thoughts or insights from what they're hearing on the street or what they're seeing in their organizations?
It's all unicorns and rainbows.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. Go ahead,
John,
Manny.
I'd
Yeah.
chime in here
Oh.
in that, and I know Barry got tied into it, and OA had the opportunity, but they've been public about it. Johnson & Johnson just ran an open innovation event to look at how they can incorporate the platform economy into their environment at scale. They've been operating for years, roughly 3 years now, as sanctioned non-compliant. So allowing the end users who are saying, I don't like my HR process, I don't like my purchasing process, I'm going to operate this other way. And they finally got the okay to kind of let them operate independently and directly with the platform. So to see a company of that size who spends well over $1 billion on temporary labor and well over $1 billion on outsourced labor every year start saying we need to figure out how to use open talent at scale is really encouraging. To use crowdsourcing and open innovation as an event to kind of figure out the how, to incorporate it into their environment just kind of speaks to the value of this across the board. So just very encouraging from my end.
John, can you
Go
hear
ahead,
me?
Tammy. Oh, I'm
sorry.
gonna, Balaji, I'm gonna go to Tammy and then we'll go to you.
Okay, so there's what I'm seeing is this really interesting opportunity and conflict in the health industry, in the medical fields, where employees are demanding flexibility and employers are exerting more pressure. And that's in one lane. The other lane is the temporary healthcare workers who float, who travel, who get more money than the people who are working the traditional type of employee jobs. And there's a potential for really amazing things to happen if the employers could adopt flexibility. But we were talking about it with a group that was like this idea that, you know, like toll roads, when there's higher demand, you're not gonna, I'm gonna try to say this in a way that makes sense in a short time frame here. If there's a huge need and not a lot of people available that day, they're going to get paid better for coming in because there are a higher number of patients or a higher number of need on these days, right? But on days where a lot of people are available, but there's low demand because of patient loads or, you know, scheduled surgeries and things like that, that the pay is lower. And just imagining these scenarios where people who are experts in the healthcare field or have these great skills can choose what days they want to work, what hours they want to work, what really works with their lives, and that the hospitals or the employers are looking at it and going, you know what, we're not going to leave our halls empty. We're not going to leave ourselves understaffed. We are willing to go within this pay frame up and down. And it's just exciting, the opportunities that might come from this. I'm not seeing right now that people want, that the employers want to adopt a lot of flexibility because of the finances of how healthcare is run in the United States. But I'll be curious to see where that goes.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thanks, Tammy. That's really great. And one thing, because I want to, Carrie, I see your hand up, but I want to call on Balaji first in just a second, just add, because we're in the midst of, Chris Stanton and I are just starting another case study. And one of the clients that I spend a lot of time talking about in the book, I think is a good predictor of how this market might work in the future. And one of the things I love about what SEI has done is they have been kind of source agnostic in their approach. And so they've gone from like not thinking about roles to very focused on tasks. And the journey in a quick scenario that we're going to write about is that Sanjay Sharma, the CTO, and Ryan Hick, the CIO, Chief Innovation Officer, had a real, had a big deficit in talent, but not in talent from certainly there was roles to be filled. And so they went out to Top Coder to start with, and they couldn't fill the talent with the talent they needed because SEI actually is a legacy wealth management software company with 80 million lines of code in their software stack. And so the knowledge it takes to get up to speed is really difficult. And so we spent a lot of time talking about what it means to play in the space. And I'm so proud of Sanjay and the guys and Ryan, because essentially what they did is they did something super simple. They just said, we're getting all this pressure from clients. We're not getting the jobs done when you get done. Let's not worry about roles. Let's just create an Excel spreadsheet of all the tasks that need to be done. And then what are they worth to the company? And what are we willing to pay employees extra on weekends and nights for? Well, lo and behold, they got 100 tasks done they hadn't been able to get done in months in the last year in 2 months. That created momentum. They invited retirees in to do that. They now have gone out to their two biggest outsourcing companies, NTT and Cognizant, and had them rewrite the master service agreement to allow for Cognizant and NTT employees to work directly on the Open Talent platform inside SEI and make extra money. So there's this big movement. One last thing I was really excited about, because I think it's really important for our whole marketplace, is that the thing that Sanjay and Chris and I talked about last week is that, one of their biggest pain points is the implementation of their new clients onto their platform. And one of the ways that, they have 6 different teams that implement companies. So only 6 clients at a time can be implemented. And obviously it takes months to do. And so, your UX designer, your backend designer, they're busy at different times on each different platforms. So Sanjay designed or implied his Open Talent platform to the implementation group to say, if you're really busy in UX on project 1, what are the tasks that need to be done, and how are other people in that division, how can they help? In a month and a half, they have decreased operating expenses by $6 million and are now able, with the same resources, to implement 10 clients instead of 6. So one of the things that's exciting, I think, for this group is that they've been willing to give us all the data, the actual data on this operating model and what's happening. So in this case study we're just starting to work on, we'll be able to get really great data on what the economics are behind moving from a fixed cost labor source to a variable cost labor source, both internal and external, and be able to share that with other enterprises and hopefully create more momentum around that. So just an update there, but I think it applies, and I think that we'll see more of that. Not so much companies deciding that they're going to be task-oriented and skill-oriented versus role-oriented, and finding ways into this market in their own kind of cultural and mindset way. So I'll leave it at that. But Balaji, I want you to jump in, because you're just coming out of Deloitte, and man, I've just really enjoyed our journey together in that, whether it was way back when we first met. I think it was at the business school, right? Like then with that open innovation conference that we did together, and then watching your progression, and then being able to kind of be a fly on the wall and writing the case studies with Mike. It's just so fun to watch your journey, and I'd love for you to kind of reflect on that and kind of what you're seeing in the future.
That's a very long arc, John, but let me at least take a shot at what I'm like the fundamental problems, at least when we met 5 years back, as to why there isn't a single $1 billion open innovation, open talent marketplace. I'm talking about not gross spend, which includes spend to freelancers, but the amount of money that marketplaces themselves make. And I think there has been a lot of progress, but not enough to say that the freelance marketplaces have in some way jumped the chasm and are now scaling and are now become mainstream in most companies. If you think about a single metric of total spend on non-employees within a large company, to how much of that spend now goes to true freelance marketplaces, I'm not sure if freelance marketplaces have made enough of a dent in that metric that they are now like I'd be very doubtful that in majority of the Fortune 100 companies, you'll have a freelance marketplace as a top 5 vendor. They probably are somewhere in the top 10 or lower, but they have not broken into the top 5 vendor, which is for a large company that makes that spends $1 billion on non-employee talent. Usually the top 10 companies or top 5 company makes about $100 million in revenue from one client. Mm-hmm. There is not a single freelance marketplace that does that with any client. But there is a lot of progress with companies like TopTal, Upwork, Braintrust that are making moves there. But I think there's still some, they've solved a bunch of tactical payment issues. They've solved a bunch of integration with vendor management systems types of issues, but they haven't solved the fundamental problem of scale. Average, contingent vendor, tech systems or Technosoft types of companies, their unit sale is in hundreds of thousands, whereas the unit sale for a marketplace, at least the Upwork freelancer type of marketplace, still is in thousands. Whereas with TopTal, at least it's in tens of thousands. So there's a lot of progress being made, but not enough. What I do notice in the more recent past, in the last year or so, with Gen AI and AI, all of the marketplaces, including TopTal, Upwork, and everybody are building relationships with OpenAI, Microsoft, everybody to ensure that they are creating additional training so that they have the staff that clients can come to build out prompt engineering and things like that. But still, if you need a contractor that is going to build out a large scale system, I'm not sure if they're all coming to the marketplaces. The second is one thing which is not spoken of enough is the amount of open talent work that is required in the feedback loop that is provided to large language models. Tons and tons of work are done by contractors. Whether you take OpenAI or anybody, all of that human feedback is provided by contractors. What percentage of that comes to marketplaces is very, very low. So there's a huge opportunity that is available out there. But the whole story around digital being a differentiator for these marketplaces compared to the old school contingent firms, the value of that digital being communicated to clients is still continues to be a challenge, where you have millions of people on these marketplaces, whereas when it comes to a client, how many people are deployable, there's still a translation gap that still continues to be a challenge, despite the growth that we've seen. I know there was a long soliloquy about it, but I'm just trying to look at a long arc of growth and progress to what still needs to be solved.
I love it, Balaji. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm going to call on you again when we talk a little bit about AI. But first, Carrie, you've had your hand raised. Thanks so much for being patient.
Oh, sure. Just was going to give a case study. I have been on contract for a Fortune 50 company this year. And a startup group within this large company. So they got their charter 16 months ago. I first talked to the head of the group 14 months ago. I joined the team 10 months ago, when we were just about six or eight people. And over the course of this year, we have scaled it to 40 people, most of whom are on contract. And this business will scale to a meaningful entity for the enterprise owner by the end of next year. So I think it's interesting that we've done that build with flexible talent. I think it's also a bridge to proving to the enterprise that we should be allowed headcount. But it's been an interesting ride with this company.
Oh, that's great. That's a great update. Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. Brandon, what else did we hear last year that, would be interesting to get reaction on?
Yeah. So Balaji last year made a statement that, AI was coming in aggressively, was going to displace a lot of people. He made that prediction in December 23, and just curious if what effect has AI had on our open talent industry, and is it as big and scary as everyone started off thinking it would be?
I mean, I want to hear groups' perspectives, but I feel that my need for an editor, my need for a researcher, my need for the basic graphic designer, the first draft creation people has gone down. Mm-hmm. But my need for the refiner, the more senior editor, has actually shot up. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a more of a nuanced answer. I'd love to see if there's any trends from the marketplaces. I wish they published stuff like that as to what's gone up and what's gone down, but I'd love to get other thoughts.
Yeah, it from my perspective, in my own work with the content, creating content and using the tools, it feels to me like it's just opened up the possibility. I think this is very much a trend digitally in the last 20 years. It's just you do a lot more. Like your productivity is way higher, but the ability to do a lot more work is just so much more readily available. Like, sitting down and using that GPT of my own work and being able to riff on ideation on prompts or questions and really explore some areas that might be some good first drafts it's game changing for me. And so I think that's, it's going to be really interesting. Is it going to be a disruptor, or is it going to be a massive acceleration of the amount of work that each of us can get done?
I think beyond the what type of work, I think the platforms are getting an opportunity to do some really kind of account-based marketing on steroids right now with AI, and really personalize the approach of how they're coming out and positioning themselves. So being a voice that's spoken in this area a lot, I'm getting a lot of people coming out to me quickly. So you're seeing the activity. So I think, those platforms that are incorporating it into how they run their business, particularly on the marketing side of things, is really standing out to me right now.
Great. Anybody else on the future of AI? I think this is probably one of the most hot topics for all of us these days, and would love anybody else. Looks
Yeah,
like
I'll throw my opinion in there. I think that, to Balaji's point about having somebody that is more specific and more tailored within their space is going to be still needed. Somebody that is straight out of college and looking to join up with a big four like I used to do, or McKinsey, to have those junior generalist consultants, that need is going to go down because the generalist consultant is the AI. And so therefore it's going to push humans to be a lot more hyper specialized within what they're darn good at, and to jump into that specialization in their early 20s and not just have it naturally appear once they turn 35 and they've been in the industry for so long.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, one of the other comments that happened, last year was, I love Sheila Mahoney's idea. She wanted a vaccine for the corporate immune system. I think that's a great way to articulate, like, how are we creating that vaccine, and like, how do we block, how do we kind of dissolve the immune system a little bit so that new ideas can find their way in. So
yeah, there is a vaccine for that, John. It's called Make Better Products.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Companies spend a shitloads of money on something else, just not on yours.
Yeah, that's true. No, I agree. I think it's also a mindset shift too, though, right? I mean, I think that, John, probably one of the most profound comments I remember over the last 3 years, John Healy, was that great conversation we had. I don't even know if it was just a conversation or a podcast or whatever. And I was kind of making this kind of false demarcation between large companies and enterprises. And you corrected me and said, no, it's really the way we live our lives in, as a company, or as a, in work, and the way we live our lives in our personal lives. And I love the kind of riff you and I talked about, is like, 5 years ago, that if you had kids and you had a babysitter, and the babysitter, oh, just pay me on Venmo. And you're like, wow, what's Venmo? And there was no problem, in the next 10 minutes for you to hook up your, banking information to a website that you didn't know the source of. And you kind of did that and paid somebody and let them kind of have access to all your banking stuff. Imagine that happening in the corporate world. It'd take months to prove that and get that kind of validated. So I love that kind of, that tension, John, you talked about between the way we adopt things as consumers in this kind of digital world with our phones, even in the context of ChatGPT and other AGIs, versus kind of the way we work and how much more cautious we are. I don't know if you want to kind of take that further, John, but reflect, because I think that was like 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, the consumer behavior is one that I've studied a lot. I want to actually go back, Balaji. I think one of the points that you had kind of challenged this group on at one stage was the importance of breakthrough products. And I was just looking, there was a good report on, all these products that have hit the 100 million users per month measure. And I think it was the last 10 that have achieved it. It was Google Translate was the oldest of it. It took 78 months. And ChatGPT down to 2 months. So you're seeing the acceleration of that. But none of those products have a change management program required. And I'm Balaji, I cite you all too often, so if your ears ring, I apologize for it. But the need for breakthrough products, to me, I think is something that we're really going to have to watch for. And with the consolidation that's happening in the marketplace and the tightening up of funds that are available, I think people are going to really have to think about whether an MVP is enough to bring to market, or if they're going to be able to get themselves to a breakthrough to truly cause that adoption that we all want to see in this marketplace.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, every company literally is spending hundreds of millions of dollars on generative AI, and nobody's really talking about adoption challenges. These elephants are not moving because they are excited about something that they want to use and they see of value. We oftentimes tend to blame the company, the clients were not buying your product, versus looking internally to see, is this really, like, what is the problem? Why they're not dumb to not use something that creates value. I think we just have to reflect a little bit on how we do that.
Yeah, I was talking to maybe I was talking to Gabrielle, or I was talking to somebody recently. Maybe I said this earlier because I've had too many conversations today and not enough coffee. But I think the problem that, you know, we have is really basic. It's like, you know, and I forget what Harvard professor coined this, but the idea that, you know, we've been in the business of selling drills where all people just want holes, right? And I think that's that disconnect. And I think that's what's proven in the, you know, when you look at it from a broadest perspective. And what OpenAI did is they didn't worry about like big change management programs and corporate implementations and security and safety and compliance. They just unleashed this super simplistic tool to help all of us be more effective, and, you know, and let us kind of buy the holes we wanted to solve the problems we needed to solve. So anybody else in that theme? No, I know we got like 5 minutes left. Let's just throw down some predictions for 2024.
Carrie has had her hand up for a while. I don't know if Carrie.
Oh, Carrie, did you? No, that was before. Thanks, Link. I think, isn't it, Carrie, or did you still want to say something?
Nope, I just forgot to take it down. Thanks.
No worries. No worries. Well, speaking of Carrie, like, you got your hand up. You want to give a prediction for 2024?
You know what? I don't know that I have one in this particular area. I've been a little bit absent from this group because of that assignment I've been working on. So I don't feel confident making one. Thank you though.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, since Link was the last person for you talking, Link, you're up. 2024 predictions.
2024 predictions, we're going to see a lot of more economic issues, whereas people are moving from the cities into more rural communities, small towns, because it's more affordable. We're seeing a huge rise in here in the Southwest, but we're also seeing this push from workforce development to move away from the old way of thinking of that high school to college or high school to trades, to expand trade areas to include remote work. And so I'm working with a few organizations that do workforce development to start thinking in this way, to expand that definition, so we can create more opportunities in the blue collar area, service providers, things of that nature, to be able to source remote work online, so we can start to employ some of these people that live in rural communities that the average wage is $15 an hour, to start being able to supplement some income working remotely. So I think that we're going to see a heavy trend of middle or medium-sized companies sourcing labor locally, whereas the bigger companies have now started to outsource overseas. We're going to start seeing this shift in the United States to expand remote work to include more categories. And so I can see language expansion and very much community expansion to build community among freelancers. So
yeah, I love
thanks,
that.
John. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Link. I love that, Link. And actually, as you talked, I was reflecting, you know, I just sold my house this last year after 35 years in Boulder. And, you know, it's like Boulder's the craziest, I mean, one of the craziest places from a real estate standpoint. So sold it for like, I don't know, 18 times what I paid for it. Not because of anything I did, because Boulder's Boulder, but at the same time, the house I grew up with in Canton, Illinois, which is an amazing house, you know, on two acres of land that my parents built in 1972, just sold for about one and a half times what we built it for in 1972. And it's just crazy. Like, I think if you're in your mid-20s or 30s and you've been in these hot cities, like, why wouldn't you move back? Because
yeah.
the ability to remote work and digitally connect, it's like you don't have to be fighting tooth and nail in these big cities to do it. And I think that I agree with you. I think that's one
Crazy.
of the big
73% of our local housing is Airbnb.
73%.
73% of our housing. The average house, 2-bedroom place to live in is going for almost $4,000 a month. And
Wow.
which is more of a 3-time increase. Like, it's crazy. But the
Yeah.
average wage is $32,000 a year.
Wow. It's crazy. It's
Nuts.
crazy. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, because I think that's a really great macro trend to think about, this kind of mass migration to these places and rediscovery and revitalization, my hope. So, hey, Glenn, you got your hand up.
Yes, indeed. Yes, thanks very much indeed for that. And I think just really to follow on from that, we're seeing in Europe, I think, sort of very similar trends. We always say that what the US has for breakfast and flushes down the toilet, the UK eats for lunch, and then continental Europe eats for dinner. I think we're going to sort of see a lot of these trends coming down the pipe for us as well. But I think we've also reached this, certainly in Northern Europe, this kind of tipping point, this acceptance, and it's individual led. So it's not from trade unions, it's not from governments or policymakers. It's individuals who are voting, saying, look, we want more freedom, flexibility, and choice as to our work style of today and tomorrow. And I think it's not just age related. I think it's across sectors, and I think that we've reached the tipping point. So it's going to increase exponentially over the months and years to come. And I think that these things that we're talking about would seem a little bit left field and a little bit sort of niche at the moment, will become a mainstay very, very quickly, and I think sort of quicker than probably we realize. So it's so important for us here to be having this eye on what you're doing in the US across the different states, because it really is coming down the pipe at us, and it's coming very quickly as well.
I love it, Glenn. I think that's a great way to stop, like, talking about the tipping point for 2024. Thanks so much for everybody being here. I know we're out of time. Love you guys. Brandon, do we have one more call this year, or is this going to be it?
This is going to be it. And look out for invites for the start of January. And
guys,
we'll keep these
Happy
great
holidays.
Conversations going.
Happy holidays, and so grateful for you guys and being on the journey. Let's and I love the help promoting the book in the new year and getting it out there. My goal is to get it on the bestseller list, so we can, like, really, put a stake in the ground and say, this is real, the movement's happening, and it hopefully it kind of, supercharges it, so that there is this tipping point that Glenn talked about in 2024. Anything I can do to help that happen, I'm 100% behind. Thanks again. Love you guys.
Thanks, everyone. Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.